Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. We are super excited to have Giulio Magrini here. We are looking forward to The Color of Dirt and celebrating with him. And I want to let everybody know that in the chat section, you have a direct line to reach out to him and get your signed copy. And I do want to point out, if you could show the bookmarks, they are really awesome, that he's sending with the books. Check this out. I love it.
Oh,
They did a good job. And there on the back,
yeah,
there's something
very
too.
cool.
There we go. There's the full picture, my friends. It's awesome. I do
We
have
are
to
the
say,
fossils beneath the living.
that's fabulous, Giulio. Giulio sent me an email and said one of my favorite quotes that I'm now gonna start using. He said he was excited in a composed way about reading. I don't know why I know it thrilled me.
Right.
Excited in a composed way. I probably aim towards that. I don't know that I hit that mark. But I do aim in that direction. So if you would like a copy of the book, you can reach out to Giulio with the and it's in the chat section. Can everybody see that? Just to make sure, I'll reprint it because okay, thank you. I do want to read a brief bio, and I had two of them. And I kind of like the one that I put in the chat section. And we'll come back to that because you get to see, some of the wide range of jobs that you've held that I really admire. And I also deeply admire that you've brought poetry into these jobs through offering poetry therapy to kids with behavioral problems, and then also to using poetry therapy in Alpha House Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center, which I think is amazing. And that dovetails with a lot of my interests, and I know other people that are present today. That's something that we thank you for. So we were talking before I started recording, and I do want to say that Giulio has been writing since the early 1970s, takes most of his inspiration from the darker sides of human nature. He has performed at Three Rivers Arts Festival and many other venues in Pittsburgh, like the Lion Walk, Encore 2, and was among the 4 featured poets at the 5th Fourth River Poetry Festival in 1990. And we were just talking about where you read, was it University of Pittsburgh that you were at?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's what I thought. We've also been treated to a couple of open mic offerings by Giulio that began with a poem in Italian, and then he translated. And I have really enjoyed, hearing that. I love how even a poem in a different language has an emotional resonance that you can feel. So we may end up talking a little bit about that. So I'm going to turn it over to you because we want to preserve as much time as possible to hear you read and to celebrate. Remember, if you'd like to read for open mic night, let me know. And then also, if you have any questions for Giulio, in case you want to remember them, put them in the chat section and I will pay attention. Thank you. Welcome to our Thursday book launch, celebrating The Color of Dirt.
Thank you very much, Malika. Thank you very much. Couldn't everybody hear me?
You are perfect. It's perfect.
Thanks for letting me bring my worth south a bit. My writing has been in prisons, drug rehab, special needs high schools, Lucky's whorehouse, and arts festivals. I believe strongly that all our work has a place in structure and beyond. Pittsburgh can be an intimate city. I wrote an elegy to the mayor of Pittsburgh, Richard Caligiuri, who died when he was 56 of amyloidosis. They told us to gather in Market Square and read poems of death and remembrance. Emily Dickinson, the Scottish poets, they were not from Pittsburgh. It was in my mind to create a low-colored poem. The performance was telecast, and I was asked to read it before the symphony, before over 100,000 people the following 4th of July. poetry's dead. We understood the mayor would go home, shave his father, and have lunch with him almost every day. The Pittsburgher. Behind the glass of sky, layers of wet glisten and descend from the clouds over Lawrenceville, Morningside, and East Liberty. The morning rain tenderly coats metal rails embedded in cobblestone. Along the banks of the rivers, steel mills become fossils, and a watery clacking of heels is heard on North Millvale Street. The calm upon us. The spirit of Richard Caligiuri continues without pause in this Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The heavens of neighborhoods fill the guardian stars with tenderness, and we feel it in the corners of his mouth, the light in his eyes, or as he shaved his father. Io amo questa città, Papa. I love this city, Papa. The earth grows soft tonight. Stardust coats the alleyways, rivers, and bridges. We are able to see the potential of humanity in the life of this Pittsburgher. The bells toll songs to the eternal, fill the churches, and it is said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And we know. I want to dedicate, well, Père Lachaise Cemetery is the largest cemetery in Paris, where Oscar Wilde is buried on Avenue Carrette. This is for everyone listening, for all y'all. Promised Malika I would not say y'all, but I'm breaking my promise. This is called Artists and the Intelligentsia. Clouds mystery, veil, beatified innocence, sliding on a winding, suppressed detour, stacked with rocks and littered glass. Our apprentices study the boundaries and decide to investigate beyond the threshold, initiate a journey to investigate this indefinable moment, to illuminate and pursue the passion and work of art. On the meandering path, they behold billboards of distraction, obstructions, and flashing lights and jingles. They hear the fortunate privileged ignite the fuse of commercials, advertising the business of technique to the sponge of masses. But through the destiny of internal static justice, a wondering phenomenon of disruption explodes unexpectedly and thunders in recognition by nomads lost in the wilderness and the mayhem of worlds. They are conducted by an artist's instrument to the gods of harmony and the explanation of humankind. The iconic, slumbering artists of history decay prominently in Père Lachaise, jangle with the breeding collective leftovers, subsist around mediocrity and sized, outcast, peculiar, and marginalized. The craft is camouflaged by the intentionally bewildered, senseless to the possibilities of achievement and the thunderous truths of the invisible as they disintegrate and withdraw to obscurity, exalting the stars with their answers. The medium and the touchstones of civilization were defined through history as an artist's production that begets the manifestation of us, these chosen few, these artists, exploring the challenging corridors of consciousness, pursue the natural continual reflection and expression of what it is to be human. Hear the melodies of spirit, recognize delight and fury, and the blending of notes, tints of color, and the composition of words in this concordant and disharmonious world. The intelligentsia huddle and execute smug impersonations, categorize au courant dilettante to the innocent and novitiate who are not apprised of violence, and the camera is coerced in sorrow and pans to Avenue Carrette in Père Lachaise, where the lips of Oscar Wilde contort even tighter. Now, after that poem, I give you a round of applause. This one's kind of difficult, and I'm just going to precede it by telling you, you're going to think I'm being hammered in this one. Trust me, it ends well. It's called What We Can Do, and I wrote it after a Three Rivers Arts Festival experience. Yeah, I'm just going to read it. What we can do. There is nothing we can do. To the overlords preying over us, nothing we can do. To the governments that suffocates, nothing, and more nothing to be done. Our friends sabotage us. We return to our families, failing to soothe us in our pain. They shower combustibles of assurance. Deluged in open sores, explosions, burning, cruelty, and it becomes worse than nothing. Unconsumed, fiery apathy, fiends lurk in every direction. They blind us, and I believe I hear them scream. They bludgeon and prod us and try to devour remains in a blood-red wave of engorgement. They're more than hungry. They're malnourished, hollow fangs hidden behind their lips. We are beaten at their festivals. They're purified by our screams. There's no need for air or the future because there is nothing and nothing to be done about it. Our destruction screams and lamentation coexists with their sweetest contentment. The defamation of our existence shapes their paramount joy until we are eventually slaughtered. There is nothing we can do, remaining void, that is the distillate evil nothing, not even the smacking of corrupt lips heard quietly in the background. There is something we can do to march forward. Smile and hearts beating hopefully and in syncopation on the streets and subways, tables and beds, and we touch the hands of the curious, depraved, lonely, and weeping. There is something we can do to carry the silence with us and take it to every being in chaos, or bring those 2 hours before dawn or any other hour for no other reason than they were sleeping, and that time should be shared by everyone together in the moment, laughing, walking, and if necessary, fists clenched and fighting as one in the battle for righteousness, because we are told by the highest authority, our individual human spirit, that this is what we must do to live, to continue, to love, and to die, so that this place and these people become better, or to allow access to the ones not yet here. There is something we can do. There is something we must do. We are beautiful. We are the consummate dawn and dusk, life in between, the emergence of mud to the gods and back, in the cycle and the circle of creation. And we are the things that must do what has to be done to continue to grow, to love and to share the inner grace and everything else. I will tell you that this next one will be extremely hard. We, if I can, this is when we witness our children die. It's called My Life in Empty Space. Everyone has it. What they were was taken or left, expelled with the trash, the residual leavings of being, excreted lifeless, empty. I'm left with the holes of memory, through the laughing smiles, the touch of a small hand, the eyes turned upward, loving the birds, especially the red ones. You remember those days of dressing up. She hated the attention of her favorite color and was patient in the museums, odd for a child her age. You wondered at the joy she demanded. Where would it take her? You dreamt for her choices viewed from immature bows and taffeta, your charge to plan and dream until her design finalized, seasoned choices. That season never came, and it was never planned for, because there was no plan and there was no life that made an allowance for unbearable, terrible eventualities, possibilities that are unthought through the moments and breaths of a child's gasps of one more time, Mama, one more time. What can we do with these empty spaces? They will never be hurt. And what have I become living as a minus from the memories of her in my heart? There is no reckoning of us left, or me. There is no me without us. And that is my light, an empty space. One time I read an article in the New York Times. It was on Dante's treatise on language. Um, it covered some aspects on the treatise. It talked about the better language of the dead. Here's this poem covers that aspect. The Speech of Angels. I hope you enjoy it. The Speech of Angels. Shifts of language, clumsy, floating variables, share the totality of nature and the stuff of heaven. The interference and meddling gossip of media, her pillows and panic, congregations of prime time cannibals selling pharmaceuticals, the circus improbability of pageant winners defined as statesmen preach solemnly with thick lips and slender hands. There's no greater eloquence or compelling cognitive thunder than the unspoken visions of the dead. Shared our touch, and now it is more. A promenade through burden and joy, a triumph of life via death, where the designs of our natural world flower, not in inexpensive words, but sacred bouquets of silence. Our speech and thought and vision forever defined and everlasting in the now, and the success of this perfect language transformed to the sharing of infinity. I see Nono with his gray vest and white t-shirt. Why does he smile and not laugh to the little boy looking up? His angel assures and articulates his heart in mine. I become the answer to every young riddle that surrounds the bewilderment of a child. His silence is not obscure, and it is not finite. It is sweet and shatters complications. In early growing days, I shared a hard firmament with Mama and Pa, scraped and suffered necessary treaties, endured the venue of voice, and were prejudiced by its sound. Near their corporal ends, the material world changed the rules of speech to terrible and hurtful noises, but the unmistakable dialogue of their newer angels rescued me from pain and delivered us to a pact of acceptance and simplicity of love. Now I talk to Mama. She tells me, Giulio, I was not afraid. You saw the cancer mask my face. It cannot interfere with us now or forevermore. Papa's angel does not have tremors. He still shaves with a straight razor. It's a garden that everyone admires. He speaks as before in stuttering excitement, and I am glad, as these are his ways. I recognize my beloved father when he explains to his friends, this is my son. In absence, they are not silent. I cannot miss my angels, and they cannot miss me. Find your angels, as they have been waiting and wait for you still. Um, my time is done. I had one last poem. It was to be for Malika,
Read it.
my 21 minutes.
Yeah,
Read
please
it.
read. Yes, we would love to hear it.
This is for my parochial education. And I swear to God, I'll scram. It's called Better to Be Born an Animal. And yesterday was, well, Ash Wednesday. Okay. This black responsibility in Wednesday ashes as our dirty teeth caress the body of Christ. Monks cower behind the walls of cathedrals. The Gregorian chant tranquilizes our spirit. Quasimodo strains at the ropes of Big Marie and Gabriel. We are reminded of rodents in a Skinner box as we scamper for wafer and comfort. Clouds of incense rain blessed water on corrupted bodies covered in sores of sin from the ramparts below the gorgons in baritone gravitas and purple vestment. The shepherd counsels the immigrants. Give money to the poor in St. Francis's behalf. He will intercede before God. In the night, the liturgy skulks in the shadows. There is the clanking of keys and furtive locking doors from inside the churches. If we are very quiet, we can hear Francis giggling through the incense. We can smell marijuana and hear women moan. Perhaps the English are white. True love is abuse. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, Giulio, thank you so much. If people want to unmute you, please do. Please feel free to do so.
Oh, holy cow. Woo.
Yes.
Yeah.
The,
Gee
Yeah.
willikers.
the liturgy skulks in the shadows is such a good line. I wish I had written it. I envy you that line very much. Wow.
I'm happy to give you a writing credit. I'm getting a lot of shit from
Oh, listen,
the
that's a
Sisters of
fantastic
Saint
poem.
Joseph. I mean, they're just, it's
Yeah.
cutting into their sex life. Anyway.
There's some lovely
Oh.
comments. And Julian, you
Oh,
said a couple of
Julia.
things that I'll come back to. And I'm trying
Okay.
to find where, no greater eloquence than these poems, because you used the term, Giulio, no greater eloquence. And then Julian just put right in there, no greater eloquence than these poems. You'll have fun with this chat section. I will, of course, be sending it to you.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll send it to me? Would that be the best? Because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, that's why I do that, because I want you to be able to see it,
Okay.
not have to do it right now. It's hard to multitask because you want to be present to the community. But I'll make sure that you get a copy of the chat section, because there's some great ones in there. Do people have
Thank you.
questions about his process or the cover or any of the poems in particular that we heard tonight? Or thoughts? Doesn't have to be a question.
Yeah, I try not to break the law when I write.
Julia, that was so amazing. Okay, so I want to know, since you've been writing for a few years now, how did you come to put this collection together? Like, what was your process for what was your motivation, and how did that happen?
Since it's so much work that I've been, there were a lot of discards in there, a lot of work put in, and a lot of adaptations that I put in. A lot of stuff that was thrown out, a lot of edits, a lot of piles that I put in. I mean, literally a lot of changes. There wasn't much organization to speak of. Now, when I decided, there was a friend that I had, and he said, "No, I have to urge you to make this into a book," because I thought, well, I'm going to perform and making this into a book, because I mean, I idly chattered about. I thought, well, I have to have something to throw into the next fire, like in Berlin. And well, it made sense to me, the way things are going. I mean, you got that nut in Florida, and I thought, well, I have to have something, to throw into the fire. Anyway, but he said, "Come on now, I'll help fiscally. I mean, I'll help you," because I wasn't having any. I was submitting my manuscript to folks, and they basically laughed at me. And and you know what? I didn't know how to go about it. I had no knowledge of how to submit manuscripts. All the folks, I mean, my experience at Duquesne, my writing experience at the University of Pittsburgh did not prepare me. I studied philosophy, communications, English writing. SART does not prepare you for manuscripts. I
Yeah.
did not. Existentialism? What are you kidding me? I mean, it was not. Plus, you know, I was not ready. And I was playing ping pong scholastically too. I was in and out of school. I was trying to control my epilepsy, not having a good time doing it. So I was just, I mean, I received my degree late in life, so I did not have a smooth career. I mean, I mean, I was at in and out of Western Penitentiary, not as an inmate, but I was teaching them poetry. I was in schools. Was at Alpha House, Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center. I was, I used my poetry outside. And that's why, I mean, some of these poetry readings, I go to them, I try and understand their dynamic, but I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? It's about their, uh, I really, I don't think I'm that stupid, but I admire some of it. I get some of it. When I was Christy introduced me to all of you, or I took part in some of it, but she says, "Here, pay attention to these folks. They have good hearts and they do good work." And so I said, okay, and I did, and opened myself up to you, and you permitted me to come in, and I did, and I'm grateful to you folks, and here I am. But I'm as curious about you as you are about me, I hope, because the type of work I do, as I hope you can see, is a little bit different than I think you're used to, or is that a prejudicial statement?
I would
No?
say that you are, I mean, I think you fit very well in what we've done here. And I was going to talk about like the sonic structure of your work. I mean, you can tell there's like a strong oral, history there in how you're used to approaching poetry. And one of the things I noticed, and I was curious to hear if other people had this experience, there's kind of a crescendo where there's a buildup, a buildup, you know, and you can
Mhm.
feel like things just still moving up into this place,
Mhm.
and then it slides down and goes back. I found it fascinating. It reminded me of how
Yeah.
when you're going up a roller coaster, you hear that clink, 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 clink before you fall.
Yeah.
And I don't know if other people
Yeah.
had that experience, but I was very fascinated by the sonic architecture of your work.
Thank
Because
you.
it
Thank
matched
you very much. That means a lot.
well, I mean, it was right there, and it matches, you know, kind of the topic. And then the lovely poem about the loss of a child was just so gorgeous. And I think Karen put something in there about that, but that had a very different feel. It had a lateral movement that went out and out and
Mhm.
out and then gathered back in. That's the only way I can describe it as far as my embodied experience. Karen
I
wrote,
was hoping,
go ahead.
oh no, I was hoping that the subtlety of that,
Hmm.
you see, that poem, I think, even though that's written from the person of a parent,
Hmm.
it is still subtle, even though it's very, very, very painful.
Hmm. And I think that
Would be
that's
appreciated
kind
by.
of what Karen was, you know, commenting in the chat section, which I thought was lovely. The part that resonated with you, Karen, was I'm left with the holes of memory. And it was such a beautiful and moving and loving tribute. I love what you wrote here. And what have I become with the minus? You know, thank you for, and this is what Karen said, thank you for the hard
Ugh.
work I know this must have required in order to write this and to share it with us tonight. So really
Mhm.
lovely. Very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really beautiful, Julia. And honestly, I have to tell you, I cannot wait to see your poems on the page.
Thank you.
I can hardly wait. Yeah, must order book immediately.
There's
Uh,
one that I was going to read, ran out of time. It was about my death. And you're
Oh,
wondering, well, how could I have done that? But I had died. This just chat. Okay, can I chat? But
Of course.
I had died, and I was on this big map sailing ship that was in the air. And I was watching the stages of my life sail by. And it starts off with me as an infant. I was chubby. I was a chubby child. And then I go by, and it was adolescence and sex and the dynamic and you know whatever. And I think you'd find that interesting. It has a picture. It's in the book. But anyway, um, yeah. If you don't have the book, get it from me. Don't get it from the thieves from Amazon. Sorry
yeah.
about
Do we have your link in the chat?
it.
Can we order? Is it in there?
Julio27 at verizon.net.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say I put
I'll
it in
write
there and I'll
something
put it
obscene in the book.
and I will put it in
And
there
Yeah, I'm
again
excited.
so that you can reach out to Julia
honey for the
about that.
voice, but it may be heroin.
It's a good read. You'll love it.
Yeah,
I put
I can't wait.
so you can reach out to Julia directly to the email that I just put in the chat section. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I was wondering, Giulio, if how you looked at your work differently if you spent big part of your career you know, writing stuff down, but thinking that you're going to perform them and thinking the performative aspects of it and all that. And now you're looking at it more closely on paper, you know, and seeing some spatial things around the words and stuff like that. Did you feel any like change in perspective there?
I write, you know, Ron, I write to perform exclusively. I never, ever, ever wrote to publish. I never, ever had to think, oh, how's this going to change? Because I always thought at the Three Rivers Arts Festival, how is this going to sound? I mean, actually, let me just explain how it was. I mean, people always would say the critique on my work was, well, Julio's work is shit because he's such a great performer, then it you know, obviously his poetry's garbage. His performance is good, so it overrides the, you know, and I was sensitive to that. It offended me. So I just kept
That
on
is
writing.
offensive.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
it is.
I think that's not a
So,
stretch.
That's very
to say.
offensive.
Well, you know who it came from, Karen. It came from the academics. I have a chip
Oh,
on my
well.
shoulder. Maybe, well, wait. No, you can't see it because you don't have that Superman
Right.
mystique. But yeah, um, but you know, it's just that I always write. I write just like you folks do, but when I write, I think, well, I'm going to perform this. It'll be at a library. My next performance will be at Oak Hill Post, a breakfast lunch place. Actually, my next gig will be to teach creative writing at Mount Lebanon Library. I'm concerned about that. So I've been offered, yeah, I've read at Mount Lebanon Library, and they offered me, yeah, it's an honorarium, $75 an hour. I'm getting paid.
Yay.
Hey,
That's
yeah,
Always a
that's
money.
beautiful
big
thing.
time. That's big
Yeah.
time.
So that's yeah. So that's big. I want to come
Awesome.
down there. We came. Christy, where'd we go in North Carolina?
Asheville.
Asheville. Asheville was nice, but you know, we got to go east.
Yeah, I was gonna say head
Come
our
down
head
there.
our way. You got to go east a little bit. Asheville's great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so very much. If y'all want to take
You're
a moment
welcome.
to say thank you, and then we will move to open mic. I do have a list of people that wanted to read for open mic. If I missed you, you can jump in at some point. We're going to head over to Christy, who we have a lot to thank for because you are who brought. Yeah. Thank you, Christy. I'm heading to Christina next.
Hi.
He-
Okay, this is a new poem I wrote last week for the new collection that I'm working on called Rock Bottom, which is about my boyfriend's 23 years of being an addict. So he's about 5 months clean now. So, okay, this is called Chimney Sweeper. I stoke crackling flames as moonlight filters through vertical blinds. The outside world narrows. 2 a.m. stillness reveals your body, fetal, curved like a C. In the front grass, lamplight, a halo, hair sooty with ice crystals. I run to you, circle your back with my palm, try to find the hum and thump of your heart, searching for breath, a vapor escapes, a whisper, prayer, plea. The dog runs to you, licks the hollow of one cheek as you stir. One word, home, billows from scorched lips. I cradle your head in my lap, clean dirt from callous knuckles, smooth your beard, free ashes, dislodged pain, memories. I sweep them quietly back under the rug, go back to pretending. As new embers glow red, a fire stirring, raging beneath, ready to burn you down. That's the first time I've read that.
You did fabulous. Thank you, Christina. That was powerful.
Thanks. Thank you.
And once again, we are on fire. All right, Julian, I'm coming to you. And I'm so glad you are here today. We missed you last week. You're good. Just unmute.
So there I go. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're perfect.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I have gone through various things that I thought to read, but I'm going to read this poem. That's the last poem in a chapbook I wrote some years ago called High Wire Man. It's in honor of and to partly in reaction to Christie's poem about jumping off the high board. Well, anyway, it's called Heart of Flight. This jug is little and brown. You and me painted round its fat middle. If I could dance, I'd have some muzzy fiddle, jazz, some Willie Humphrey whistle saying yes, and so, and pas de deux, and shuffle off, and a little traveling music, please. Then, if I could dance, I'd boogie all over. No stiff, hard muscle drag for me. I'd move like Michael Jordan going for the basket, flying up and easy. My hang time would last forever. Women watching would collapse, breathless with the wonder of it. Dance, if I could dance. Once at 15, I sneaked into a neighbor's backyard pool at dusk, the water lit from below, climbed the high board and soared into that bright aureole like an angel with stolen wings. My clothes fell away. I flew for an instant that has lasted 40 years. So if I could dance, I'd aim for that heart of flight. Come on, Willie, let's you and me crack this jug.
Oh, Julian, that's fabulous. Yeah, Ronald just wrote in there, you rock, Julian. Make sure you read the chat section after you've done your open mic, because I don't want you
Okay.
to miss something.
That was fabulous, Julian.
Yours was too, Christy, I tell
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Those should be read together at open mics frequently like that. Karen, I'm coming to you.
Karen.
Okay, you guys humor me. This is fresh ink from this morning and it's kind of long, but I'll try to read it really fast. Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yeah. Okay, so where this came from, this great journal that's no longer in print, which is really killing me. I love it so much. I've just feel, but I didn't know it was out of print when I bought it. So now I'm really sad. Anyway, so I plucked words from all the titles in the book and came up with this bit of weirdness. So this is putting one good foot down and stepping backwards through. Size matters in the metro, I think, as this morning rolls a grapefruit down a sticky aisle, as some no-trunk elephant makes a game of go toward the would-be pianist who is crossover flirting with a patient spirit in cat world. Observations are academic as the lesbian love poem faces the crowded game of a hiccuping mother, their homage to imitation wood beginning with a line overheard in a drugstore in another life. In a poem, perhaps, about memory or sick and tired dust bunnies. Some out-of-towny Kathleen and James types are plotting the demise of a painting by Sargent in this sorry go-round that's a triptych of butcher, baker, candle, stick maker, crammed into 1933 in Carl's truck with a cousin they'll leave at 5th and Bezos on mescaline, singing the iguana taco blues. In radiant serenity here, I have thought of the safety of birds in comfortable ass-clicking garments as 4 lemon sonnets written on wings in my mother's address book. Like a rabbit in snow's blue, calm catastrophe, I tilt this globe, seeking sound effects with winter clutching a turn of heads. The card said I would meet him in this life. But this is incompetent perfection, cipher inscribed on amphora with figures, war versus outer space, the art of practice, just a night with others in praise of pain. This is simile, analogy, mimesis, nutrition, preposition, id, id, a praise poem for James Sienna. This craft, a boat or ship, or airplane or spaceship or work or objects made by hand or skill in carrying out one's work must be lighter than air for dreams to come through on about the 20th of the 2nd month or Cinco de Mayo. Maybe the sloth sleeps above New York City, like a goose with baby girl names or initials like U, like Z, or B-boy or B-girl or ache. Galatea, them, Avenue. Beneath the bridge, this is Gnosis. This is liquidation, blown skull and crossbones, a vase, a description of a vase, notes on a memo, Mars. If I were a different letter, this would be language event number 4, but maybe this is just the beginning, the fall garden, maybe just a ride.
Oh, love it. That's fabulous. I don't know. Oh my God. I have to say, iguana
I don't
Taco
know.
Blues, I don't think I'm gonna get over that.
I
Yeah,
could
it's-
comment on a whole bunch of language things, but it would take 10 minutes.
right? It was
It
just too
was just so
beautiful.
much, yeah.
It was just beautiful.
It's a lot. Listen, this, if y'all ever find a copy of this Goodfoot, it's got some crazy stuff in it. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I love what you did with it. I hope that keeps happening because I want to hear it. Cal, I have you next, and if I miss somebody, let me know at some point. So I will come your way.
I put it in the chat. I don't know if you saw it.
I
Malika.
didn't, so I'll come to you next. Thanks, Ron.
Okay.
All right, Cal. I got
Oh, I suddenly saw myself there. This is about my father, who was a police officer in Essex County, New Jersey. And there were riots there in 1967. And that's what begins the poem. It's called Newark Riots, 1967. My long gone daddy was a big, strong cop in the Newark streets where he grew up. 6'9", 300 pounds. He was dispatched to the riots where his Negro football buddies fired bullets that breezed by his head like bees. I can still see him. He's stunned, sad, ignores the flak, drags victims to sidewalk shelter, sees them as his old teammates themselves. Why are they shooting at me? This is going to change his life. He went from hair trigger to silent. My father wanted to crawl into a hole, too young to retire. Later on, alerted by screams, he becomes a giant icebreaker, rescues a tiny black girl from a frozen pond, almost freezing to death. But no one cares. The sergeant just orders him back to the barracks to change clothes. The girl and her family celebrate on shore. No thank yous. 2 years later, he slipped on an icy patch and hurt his foot chasing a crook, Achilles heel. He was wild with glee when the authorities determined his injury was bad enough to retire on. And so he did, and sat thinking he beat the system, doing nothing, waiting for death in his recliner, watching TV, looking at pictures in magazines he couldn't read, sitting in his chair with National Geographic, scared to die alone. Better to slip under the ice quietly, silently preserved, your last yell immortalized in the park by a wooden sign naming the pond after you, but who would read it? The little children throw lines in for catfish. Their mothers grab the dirty fish, clean them, fry them up in oil, and serve them with greens and hush puppies in a home they'll soon have to leave.
Thank you, Cal. Awesome. Yeah, make sure you're reading comments, everybody. And so I'm coming to you, Ron, as our final one. Did I miss anybody else? Because I'm certainly capable of doing that. All right, there we go. All you, Ron.
Okay. When I was either 2 or 3 years old, my mother had to chase around the country for my father, who always left. And so she took me on a train to California. And I just have this weird, like, screen memory, I think Freud called it or something, about being passed around in the train car and these women paying attention to me and men walking around. So I was in a workshop on villanelles before dinosaurs. I can't even remember when I first started writing in 2010 or 11 or something like that. And so this came out of that. It's a villanelle called The California Zephyr Crosses the Great Divide, 1931. The Zephyr snakes around the mountain face, and in the car the salesmen lurch and bound, the ladies laugh and coo and speak in haste. Grand dames in silk who whisper their distaste, a waif who eats whatever she has found. The Zephyr snakes around the mountain face, half-eaten meals abandoned in their plates. The biddies smirk and pout, crow, don't be proud. The ladies laugh and coo and speak in haste. The train leans right and up the bend they race. The urchin breads her sauce without a sound. The Zephyr snakes around the mountain face. The downward slide begins and bodies brace and tops of pines rise up from underground. The ladies laugh and coo and speak in haste. The salesmen smoke cigars, the urchins pace, a scavenged glass of port, a hunger drowned. The Zephyr snakes around the mountain face. The ladies laugh and coo and speak in haste.
Oh, thank you so much. That was awesome. That was from a class that
You're
you had
welcome.
taken? Is that?
I don't remember what workshop. Did you give a class in Villanelles?
No, not me. Oh, no. I struggle with those. So I was just curious. I was like, yeah, I have gone to some and then
No, I probably was the Writers Network, one of their conferences, and somebody gave a poetry class, and I wrote mostly fiction, but I like poetry too, so
yeah.
I took one. So
No, it was lovely. There was a nice, the sounds and images in the poem is what Karen wrote. Yeah, it's yeah.
thanks.
The biddies smoke and pout, the train leans right. Yeah, lovely, the sounds and images. Thank y'all once again for an amazing open mic. And Giulio, so good to be in your good company. And Karen, thanks as always for being the backup and the co-host. And I appreciate y'all. And I was glad you were able to stay, Christy. Hoping that you feel
Yeah, it was great. I'm glad I stayed too.
get some rest, people. See you next week.
This was so great. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, Giulio.